All right, folks, it's about to get real. You've finished your inspection and identified the damage around the property. You have your notes, photos, and you're ready to walk the insurance inspector around the house and grab that big check, right? Okay, let's slow it down for a quick second and set some realistic expectations. Hey all, this is Quay's AI twin, founder of DIYGC, back with our second training video, Adjustments. In my experience, I've met 4 different types of insurance inspectors for adjuster meetings. The first one is a staff adjuster. These are salaried employees of the insurance company, so they're paid the same whether they approve or deny your claim. Sometimes they may give you the benefit of the doubt on some questionable damage, but they usually want solid evidence that the damage was caused by a storm on the date that you told them it came through. Remember when you filed the claim, they asked for your date of loss. Most adjusters will come with the storm data. They'll have wind direction and speeds, hail size, duration, date and time of the storm, pinpointed to your location. The second type I've met are called independent catastrophe adjusters, or simply CAT adjusters. These inspectors are independent contractors and can approve or deny claims as well. They're paid per job. The bigger the claim, the more work they have to do, the more pay they get. The third type I've met are guys from ladder assist companies like Seek Now or Hancock. They are independent contractors paid to perform a service regardless of the outcome. Insurance carriers will use them to take photos and measurements and send their report to the adjuster. They can't approve or deny the claims, but their recommendation carries a lot of weight. Lastly, I've met with structural engineers that specialize in exterior building envelopes. If an engineer shows up, there's not much for you to do. They aren't there to discuss or negotiate the claim. They are strictly there to collect data for their report. You'll also hear me speak about desk adjusters, but they don't go on site for adjuster meetings. They deal with the claim after the inspection has been completed. Okay, now let's get back to your adjustment. If you plan on getting up on the roofs with your adjuster, then have your ladder out and set up against the house. Most adjusters will not allow anyone to climb their ladder for liability purposes, but if you're comfortable with it, you can offer your ladder to them as a nice gesture. That will save them time and extra work from grabbing their ladder off a truck or van. I greet them as soon as they get out of their vehicle and exchange business cards. Introduce yourself as the homeowner and contractor. Once the formalities and small talk are over, I'll go over my notes with the adjuster. I'll give them a brief rundown of my findings and tell them which elevations took the hardest hits. A lot of times they won't want you to show them all the damage. They'll want to find it for themselves at first. Have your receipts, notes, a pen and pad ready. Each adjuster has their own process and way of doing things, but most of them will start by taking a photo of the house numbers and the full front of the house. Then they'll start their inspection from there and make their way around. Some adjusters are really friendly and will explain everything they're looking at and paying for as they go. And some will stay quiet and explain everything to you at the end of their inspection. If you have an adjuster who's not explaining much, then ask questions. Watch them as they look at things on the house and what they're writing down. If they're writing something down, that probably means they're approving something, and it's important to know exactly what and how much of it. For instance, you may have multiple gutter runs on an elevation, but there's a big tree giving cover to one of them. Now you have to be able to specify which gutters were approved and how many feet. Same goes for windows. You may have 6 windows, but they only approved 4. You have to know which ones didn't get approved and why. Their estimate will only tell you the quantities on each elevation, not the location of the item on that elevation. Sometimes it might be easier to do a quick hand sketch of each side of the house before the adjuster gets there. Lay out your doors, windows, lights, gutters, downspouts, and anything else that could have been damaged. Now you can just check things off as you go. Remember to check sheds, playsets, and fences. If you had damaged personal contents, bring out your receipts or whatever proof of cost you have prepared from your inspection. If damage was found on the ground, you will know which elevations of the roof took the most damage. Remember, during the roof inspection, the adjuster has a lot more experience identifying hail and wind damage than you do. But that doesn't always mean they're right and you're wrong. If you don't agree with them on something, ask for an explanation why. If you still don't agree, make your argument, agree to disagree, and move on. Do not agree with them for the sake of agreeing. Agreeing means you're giving up on that item. You can ask for a second adjustment later, so you don't want it documented in the system showing you agreed there was no storm damage. Now, you don't have to take my advice on this. I'm just another greedy contractor to them. You're their customer, so holler, yell, and scream in their face if that's what you feel like doing. Your experience will be different than a contractor's. For me, I was always polite and cordial and just worked the process. Okay, so moving on. You won't need to take measurements of anything unless you want to know them ahead of time. They will most likely have an Eagle View roof and wall measurements report in hand, which uses aerial photos and some really cool technology to get those measurements, with 98.77% accuracy. If not an Eagle View, then something similar, like GAF Quick Measure or Roof Scope. Ask the adjuster to email you a copy of it, so you won't have to measure by hand or pay for a report later. After you've completed the inspection, compare notes with them and summarize the findings together. Make sure you're both on the same page. Ask for clarification about anything you didn't understand and what their next steps are. If you were denied and agree the damage wasn't storm-related, then you're done and it is what it is. If you were denied but you don't agree with any or all of their assessment, then agree to disagree and wait for the paperwork before we take the next step. If you got a partial approval but still believe you have other items that should be covered, then you should also wait for the estimate before taking the next steps. If you got everything approved and are satisfied with the outcome, great, but it's not 100% confirmed until you get it in writing. Whether they approved or denied your claim, you will get some paperwork sent to you. If denied, they'll send you a denial letter saying, "Sorry to inform you, blah, 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 blah." If partially or fully approved, you will get an Xactimate estimate breaking down what was all approved. Over 90% of insurance property loss claim estimates are written in Xactimate, so we'll focus mainly on those when we go over the estimate in the next segment. Xactimate is the software insurance companies use to determine how much they'll pay for your repairs. It uses preset, location-based pricing for labor and materials to generate the estimate. But understanding how it works can help homeowners make sure nothing is missed and they're being paid fairly. The accuracy of the estimate depends heavily on how the damage is documented and written, making expertise in the system critical to getting a complete and fair scope of loss. Now, at any time, if you feel like things are over your head and you're overwhelmed, remember you can always call a contractor to take over at any point in the process. But you'll miss out on making the profit and have to pay your deductible out of pocket. Before you consider doing that, you still have one more shot before the fight gets too complicated. Most insurance carriers will allow you to request a second adjustment with a new inspector and a fresh set of eyes on it. You can call their 800 number and tell them you didn't agree with the last inspector. The best scenario here would be to have a decision maker perform the re-inspection, either a staff or CAT adjuster, preferably the CAT adjuster. You want to have a conversation with them before they begin their inspection. Set the expectations of what they are going to find, and let them know how the last one went with the previous person and why you disagreed with them. It wouldn't hurt to vent a little to them either, like saying, "You know how much I pay in premiums," or "This is my first claim ever." Talk about being a loyal customer and how disappointed you are in them. These are sales tactics that could slightly swing the favor in your direction. If an engineer or ladder assist shows up, then the decision will be made by an off-site adjuster. But it wouldn't hurt to ask them what their opinion is about the damage. If your roof has still completely been denied, which means no shingles are being repaired or replaced, then you either don't have storm damage or you need to get an expert involved at this point. Consider calling a public adjuster for advice. Well, that wraps up this segment on adjustments. Join me next time for when we go over the insurance paperwork you just received. We'll break down how to read it and next steps if you are still not satisfied with the outcome. Thanks for watching, and please remember to like and subscribe, because the more you understand the game, the better you can play it.